Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Quick reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'll be joined by lawyer Amanda Farmer to discuss all things strata. So join us and ask a question live. But now it's a very windy Monday evening, totally appropriate for Edwin's rant. Hi, Edwin.
G'day, Martin. I feel violated today. Not just by the wind, but was being poked and probed all day today by specialists. So I really feel violated.
Okay, all right. Well, at least it proves you exist, I suppose.
Yeah, but then again, when you start the day off by watching our premier's press with regards to what's going on, I mean, the violation starts early in the morning, I guess.
Well, yeah, I've given up watching those because you could replay the tape every day other than change the number. But I'll tell you what I was impressed about. The Northern Territories went into a lockdown today, and in a 10-minute press conference, the guy in charge of the Northern Territories laid it out on the line and said, here are the 5 things you can do. You can go within 5K of your home. Where you live is your home, so where you currently are, so you can't sort of dodge between two different... I mean, he lays it all out perfectly clearly, perfectly transparently, no ambiguity, complete clarity, right? And I'm thinking, Gladys, look, that's how it should be done.
Look, it's all to do with the hidden messages, Martin, of what they really want to see happen. You can line up 37 deep at Bunnings, waiting for the goods to be go through the cash register. You can go to Bunnings to pick up all sorts of things. Traders can amass at any Bunnings store. You could go to open house inspections. You can do all that, but the latest changes with regards to the what you can and can't do for the rest of the people are basically dwindling down to almost being able to do nothing. And the reason why I watch these presses is because I want to give Dusty and Evan comfort that we will be out and about in the beach in summer, but at this stage it doesn't look like it. We might get to see Santa, but Dusty and Evan have to fight out whether they see Santa with has to be wearing a mask, or Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, and it has to be wearing a mask as well. So they're fighting it out, Martin. We don't know what we're going to see. It's a mess, and it's only just going to get worse, I think.
Well, there was a very interesting article today on Bloomberg that actually said, look, don't be confused here, right? You can't get herd immunity at 70 or 80% with this particular virus, right? You need to get at least 95%. And even then, with the Delta variant, it's unlikely that you're going to get herd immunity. It's a mirage. You can't do it, right? So it basically calls into question fundamentally the dirty modelling and also the strategies as articulated, particularly by Gladys, but other people too. I think this is a long, slow road, and I don't think it's going to be over in just 2 or 3 months. So I think Christmas this year, maybe Christmas next year will be better, but I'm not sure it's certain. So slow and patient, Edwin. Slow and patient.
Yeah, we'll tell that to the young girls. Dusty and Evan, they're very, very impatient. But it's farcical, and as you and I have said and spoken about for quite a while now, and we've talked and we've discussed about the variants before it became mainstream, or even before it became conspiracy theories on the social media platforms, because of what happens in the contacts that we have over in China, and what we're told was to what they're doing and what they're seeing, because at the end of the day, it's information that they're gathering, that they have been gathering, and they're trying to get out to the rest of the world. But we don't seem to trust the doctors that want to do the right thing, because we've painted everybody that's from China with the same brush, and do not pass go, do not collect your vaccine. But there's a lot of things, and there are a lot of issues that are still yet to unfold. You've got the new variants coming through, Delta 2. Lambda is only just being started to, people in America are only just starting to talk about it. And we said weeks ago, if not months ago, with regards to it, and how much more potent that's going to be, and where it originated, which is really pretty much in South America, and all the people that are amassing at the southern border at the States and going through the border, over 1 million people, I believe, and it's all spreading out. So all this of stop starting, how does it affect us back at home? Is that confidence? The politicians don't give you any confidence. They don't give you any substance. They don't give you a clear path forward. It's a very windy road and a very steep road, and a lot of precipices along the way that small businesses are falling off. And it's the small businesses, it's the small players that seem to be forgotten, because it's only the big corporations that are really going to make it through. I mean, the talks of the bigger corporations also, like, once again, we spoke about the changes to the demographic changes with regards to working from home, and how that was going to pan out, and everybody was happy clappy about all that and working from home. Look, that's great, but if you recall, Martin, midway through last year, we said that what people have got to look out for is going to be the changes in pay packets with the people working from home, and it's only just recently that the mainstream are now talking about people that are working from home for big corporations are getting slugged 25% less in the pay packet if they're going to continue to work from home. Next is going to be it's going to be a race to how cheaply can you work from home, and why pay an executive $250,000-$300,000 to do something that you could get 3 juniors to do for 150.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a further disruptive force, which I think is just playing out. And interestingly, of course, it also flows out to where people buy property, right, as well, because now people are saying, look, I'm not so worried about buying a property that's conveniently accessible to work, right? I want to buy a property where I want to live, right? Because, the world's changed. So, I mean, there are so many things moving around at the moment, so many moving parts. It is very hard to make a lot of sense of it. And more broadly, with the virus, of course, China is not immune. In fact, I think they've shut down one of their really big ports recently because of it, right? And that's having a profound knock-on effect. And some of the other chatter up from China is also, I think, calling out some very significant issues too.
Look, quite a lot of issues. Look, it's chatter at the moment, but as of the weekend, now transport companies, shipping companies from China have got an unwritten rule, and the new unwritten rule is that unless the goods that are inside the container are worth over 70,000 US, they're not going to ship it. Why? Because they're not getting paid. Because the shipping costs have gone through the roof, from 4,000 to 20,000 US in some cases, depending on the size of the container and where it's got to go. And at the other end, the people that ordered those goods, or that shipped those goods, or imported them, they're not paying the bills, and those containers are sitting on docks offshore. So the shipping companies in China, as of the weekend, have basically said, there's one or two ways you're going to get shipment of your goods from moving forward. One, the value of the goods inside the containers have got to be above 70,000 US. And two, you've got to be a long-standing client. Otherwise, there are going to be two chances of getting your goods. One's called Buckley's, and the other one's called none.
And interestingly, of course, some small businesses in China are also getting crushed as well, aren't they? Just as they are in the West.
Well, that's correct, and that's going to be that's telling. I was trying to download that video, but unfortunately that got censored, and we were only able to get the screenshot. It was an interesting video of pretty much the owner of this operation having to do run the last shift on his own. He as he's videotaping what he's doing. It's all to do with packaging, plastic packaging, and he's doing the last order of packaging that he can, because he can't afford to pay the wages anymore. He has to operate all the machines on his own. He's working 48 or close to 72 hours without rest to fulfill the last order, because he's basically going to pack up and hang up his mitts or gloves or goggles or boots or whatever you want to call it, and that's it. Call it quits. And that's what's happening across the SMEs there as well, because the base materials are going through the roof. So once again, we brought this out to the attention of our viewers last year, and we said that be careful. And if you have to order goods for your homes, for your rental properties, for your principal place of residence, do it quick, because things are going to start increasing in value. Now, how does that affect us? More to the point is the cost of the materials in order to do your renovations, in order to build our homes. And like from screws to bolts to dyno bolts to flooring to you call it, you name it, you call it. They're going to go up in value. So and also. Interestingly, after getting that information on the weekend, today I had I had an interesting conversation with a tradie that knows one of the senior reefs, the plumbing company suppliers, the managers in there, and basically he was told, and this is hot off the press, Martin. He was told that within 8 to 10 weeks, PVC pipes there will be an increase of 150%. So that's what's happening. So you can't tell me that that we're not going to feel it. We're definitely going to feel it, and especially all the homes and all the projects that are either haven't started, just started, or halfway through. The question is will they get finished?
Absolutely. And the other thing I think we should think about is not just the items themselves, but the packaging, the stuff that they're wrapped up in, right? Because those also have to be produced. And it looks to me as though some of those are also now being less accessible than previously. So, the costs of everything when it comes to construction is going through the roof. Chances of getting supply is pretty limited. And, that means that those contracts can't be completed.
That's correct. And a lot of the packaging materials that the packaging materials that we use here to, not only for products to build homes, but think about the packaging, all the packaging that we use and that we've been importing to package food, Martin. This is why the people we said we're going to be moving further away from the CBDs, further away from the central hubs, so that they can have a bit of land to grow their veggies, do something, and it's going to, what's playing out, what's coming along, what's happening is going to be horrendous. The new mandates or the amendments as of today to the to the Act were rather interesting. Under the Public Health Act 2010, the Public Health COVID-19 additional restrictions for the Delta outbreak order 2021. The changes were rather interesting, and this is what I'm saying. It's farcical, and the science that these politicians follow is just absolutely ludicrous. I mean, two main points that I shared on Twitter. One was you can no longer shop within a 10-meter radius of your home. Now it's brought down to 5, and more shops are closing, or where you get your specialty goods, they're closing. So you have to travel further afield in order to get specialty goods. You can't now. That's been cut from 10-kilometer radius to a 5-kilometer radius. But the other significant factor, which is, it's all about the science, is the only change to inspecting property anywhere in New South Wales is that now you can't do it as a couple. You can only do it one at a time.
Exactly. It's very interesting, this 5-kilometre thing, right? I've heard lots of people argue it doesn't apply if you're just travelling within your LGA, right? Which, when I read it, I don't get that, but some people are choosing to interpret it like that.
Yeah, within your LGA, but that school of thought, as I brought out this morning, it's more to do with the country towns where there's 20-30 kilometres that's 20-30 kilometres apart, but within the CBDs, I think the authorities are going to take a different view, and you got to look. They're going to throw a lot of caution to the wind, and they're going to basically, they've upped the fines from $1,000 to $5,000, from $3,000 to $5,000, and whatnot, and they're talking jail terms, they're talking all sorts of things now. I understand it that as of next week, I think another 500 defence personnel are going to be deployed and they're going to be deployed mainly in the southwest region. I mean, that is really going to be interesting as to what happens. Maybe we need to call the Taliban to be rescued as well, Martin, like like in Afghanistan. I don't know. Don't know anymore.
Well, I just refer again to that Northern Territories briefing in 10 minutes, right? Absolute clarity in terms of what you can and what you can't do, why you can do this. And one of the interesting things that he said was that they'll be using click and collect from Bunnings, right? So you can't go into Bunnings. All you can do is to pre-order and go and pick it up, right? Now that seems to be quite a sensible option, right? So the point is, there are choices that people could make that would actually have absolute clarity, right? So the reason there is no clarity here in New South Wales, it's deliberate, right? This is policy. This isn't just incompetence. This is policy, and that's why it's so amazing.
Well, that's correct. Look, Matt, with this home delivery, I mean, we've been using that more often now. But the problem is that you're only getting. There's certain parts I've found out now that recently that one, Woolworths won't deliver. Where we are, we can only get Coles, and there are certain items that they will not deliver. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I can't get any of Dusty's and Evan's treats or food or everything else. I can't buy in bulk, and I can't get that delivered at all. I've got to travel, and then the nearest pet store is closer to 17 kilometres to where we are. So it's obviously what I can do as a buyer's agent and as a real estate agent is I've got liberty to travel anywhere in New South Wales to inspect property on behalf of clients, which is rather look, if you're going to lock down. If you're really pushing for this zero case, I'll call it BS now because we're not going to get there. If you're really pushing for that, you lock everything down and you go hard, and then you start implementing proper quarantine facilities, and you start putting aside this BS 14-day quarantine scenarios when China have been talking about since day one, minimum 21-day quarantine, and which now they're implementing in lots of Asian countries and parts of Asia. They're implementing a 21 plus 7. So if after 21 days, when you get tested, there is a slight chance that you may still have it, or you may have contracted somewhere. You still got to do another 7 days to make sure that you don't have it. So this 14-day was already quarantine thing was debunked by China in the first couple of months of 2020, Martin. But yet we're stuck to it like glue, and we continue to put people that are at risk, that have contracted the virus, but it hasn't manifested, or they may be in quarantine for 14 days, but it's manifested over that period. We've put them back into the community, and then the ones that have to pay for it are us. And more to the point, in relation to the rant, are the small business owners and operators that are absolutely getting hammered now. That they don't have any of the support that the government was giving last year. Now they're on their own. Now they've got to either sink or swim, and it's going to be a question as to how many properties come on the market for sale, who can hold on to the properties, or what the government's going to do in order to hold on. But having said that, I also like to say that the demand for freestanding homes, it's still high, and yet the amount of properties on market are almost 47% less than they were this time last year, which is incredibly low.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think the couple of observations there. The surveys that I run on for the small business sector absolutely shines with issues now. There are so many businesses that have cash flow issues. They have no chance of hanging on. So the support mechanisms just aren't there for them. And unfortunately, it's getting worse and worse and worse, right? The other interesting observation is, there are still people who are definitely still interested in purchasing properties and are interested in paying top dollar for the right property, right? Because there is so little on. So we've got this really weird situation where some people are still doing quite well, some people are still confident, but a lot of people aren't. Now, in all of this, there's another aspect to it, and that's the sort of the mental issues, right? So now, there are people starting to talk about, mental health and those sorts of things. But, the psychological and social issues here are critically important to understand. And I still don't think that we've really understood the consequences of what's happened, and as this flows through and ahead, I think it's going to be a big question.
Look, and again, staying on topic with the property rant, this has it's going to have huge ramifications on rental properties as well as owner-occupied properties because of the one. A lot of families are being displaced. 2, there's going to be a lot of litigation. 3, there's a lot of crime. There's an increase. When I started contacting the people that I know in the law enforcement and in the legal fraternity with regards to the criminal side of things and what's happening because of the current reports that I've been reading as to the social aspects and how it's affecting families and predominantly young women. And young mothers, how they're being affected and having to cope with these lockdowns. It's absolutely frightening. So you've got a surge in the criminality with regards to the use of barbiturates, the use of drugs. Now, in order obviously to keep that or maintain that habit or pay for that habit, they're also selling to their friends and neighbours and so forth. And these are from affluent parts of Sydney. We're talking about from the North Shore, lower North Shore, and the eastern suburbs. Predominantly, that's where there's been a huge surge. In the west, northwest, southwest, we've had an increase of marijuana. You call it plantation. The cultivating of marijuana in rental properties, and also the production of ice and those substances that can basically be cooked in a room as big as an ensuite, and that's what they're doing. They're using ensuites in order to cook this. So obviously properties are being affected, lifestyles are being affected, people's livelihoods are being affected, and the government's not really talking about this. They keep on with this BS mask mandates, and it's absolutely farcical. But again, you got to follow the science. You got to follow the science, and it's absolutely ludicrous. You only have to see the press conferences, and you only have to see how these idiots that are out there trying to guide us and trying to guide the New South Wales population and trying to get us out of this. You see them, for starters, they take the mask off to speak. But yeah, that's when this Delta strand is, aerosol. So obviously, it's when you speak, you're going to spread the bloody thing. So they take the mask off to speak. They put it back on after they've stood behind that, the microphone, in that pulpit, or for 20 minutes, with all that aerosolized virus, if they do have it, floating all around them. They put it back on and sit behind. I mean, it's crazy stuff. When you see shit like that, you sort of wonder, what are you thinking? That's not even, it's not even, there's no science behind that. The whole purpose of wearing a mask, one of the main purposes is that so that when you speak, your saliva or the aerosol coming out of your body, if you are infected, you're not pushing it out to the rest of the public. But these idiots take the mask off when they speak and put it back on to stand behind the speaker. It's crazy stuff like that. That makes it harder for small business operators to come back on, because it's these idiots that have become the super spreaders, not the general public. It's the politicians that have become the super spreaders, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they're certainly not super when it comes to solving the issues and communication. So, unfortunately, there might be super spreaders, but not a lot else. I will just say, Edwin, I think it's pretty important that if people are having mental issues and social issues and are concerned, and they should reach out, right? And there are a whole bunch of different organisations, but Beyond Blue is one that is highly recognised and recommended, and their number is 1300-224-636. I'll put the details below, because we know that there are people who need help and may not be willing easily to reach for help, but there is a very easy way to get some help there. And, in this current environment, it isn't just today we're thinking about, but this is going to be what's going to happen ahead. So if you are in strife, reach out. Don't just try and handle it on your own.
No, and look, there are. I understand. My understanding as of this morning is that there are also a couple of other organisations that are putting together class actions against the government, small business operators, and also transport workers, because they're being affected. Their incomes have dwindled to next to naught, and they're holding high mortgages over commercial property, and also big leases in in the transport. Some of these rigs are worth $250,000-$300,000 and now all of a sudden they've got these leases, these mortgages, and they've got no income to pay for them. So there are quite a number of organisations that are popping up as well to assist in litigating and putting together class actions against this farcical approach that the government have taken. But it's rather interesting how the world is adapting and changing, and you see how things are shifting and moving, Martin. And obviously, one thing for sure that is a commonality across all the areas that we monitor with regards to properties, people just want that security. They will pay that top dollar and more for that security, piece of land, and anything to do with densely populated areas where the crime is surging, where obviously the closer you are to other individuals, the more likelihood you are of getting this virus, and if you're not a supporter of the vaccine, or even if you are a supporter of the vaccine, there's no guarantee that you're not going to get these new variants anyway. So the shift is changing. I mean, even on that note, with regards to how things are changing, our WeChat chatters have also told us that there's one of the biggest commercial developers in China, which was I understand it was listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2007 as being the biggest at that time, was trying to reach out to I think it was Blackstone, trying to reach out to Blackstone to basically have a share ownership in order to grow and support its endeavors in China, and the Chinese government put a stop to it. One of the WeChat chatters said, well, you know what, maybe if that American organization wasn't called Blackstone, it was called Redstone, they might have had a better chance.
What's in the name? Yeah, absolutely. But we are in weird times, and it's interesting, Edwin. I did a rant yesterday. I did my own rant yesterday. I got so cross about it. I felt I just had to let go on it, right? Because the Reserve Bank, right, handed close to $200 billion to the banks, right, to help them. They gave them some really, really cheap money, right? And CBA got 51 billion of that 200 billion, so nearly a quarter of in fact, was a quarter of the total amount, right? As a result of that, CBA reported an improved profit. And so they were able to increase their dividend and are doing share buybacks, right? So money is flowing like water at the top end of town and into our big banks, and thank you RBA, thank you government, right? And yet the real people here, that we're talking about, the people, small businesses, households, a lot of them are really up against it. And I just don't think that those in authority have any idea of the real consequences amongst real people that's happening just at the moment. It's like another world.
Look, it is, Martin. It really is, and this is with regards to our WeChat chatterers and what I just shared about the what's happening with the commercial property. It's just further evidence of China decoupling from the rest of the world. They've done it with the other industries, with the tutoring and gaming and all that, in order to control that population a lot more. And now that with this unfortunate incident that's now happening in Afghanistan, they're going to have a direct supply of oil and other resources because of the Belt and Road program that they've initiated there with the Taliban and so forth. I mean, won't go into all that, but I mean the Western world. Our leaders across the board have just let the people down, regardless of what political persuasion you are. The leadership have just let us down. We're playing with so-called scientific mandates that don't make sense, because it's typically it's an order for thee but not for me, or do as I say, not as I do, and all this hypocrisy that continuously gets dished out. And in the meantime, you got China decoupling from the rest of the world. We got supply chains being hampered more and more. We've got greater issues around the corner with regards to obtaining goods, as we can have better standards of living, and the government's planning moving forward is building high-rise developments that don't make sense. Is creating health mandates that only crush the small business operators and put more pressure on the single parents, and put more pressure on the low income workers, and it's only the boys club or the club that supports them that benefit, as you just said, Martin.
Absolutely, yeah. One rule for them, one rule for everybody else. That's exactly right, and we're seeing it again and again around the world. Because if you look at the relative wealth accumulation at the top end and compare it with everyone else, it's just completely distorted. And unfortunately, central bank policies, quantitative easing, everything else is all just creating a bigger problem, right? At some point, people have got to wake up and realise that central banks and those large corporations are not actually doing us a favour at all, right? They are effectively taking us into a really scary cul-de-sac, right? And unfortunately, there is no simple way back and there's no simple way out. That's the problem that I see. And then, of course, we have the virus in the short term, and then we have the IPCC and the issues of climate change and global warming and those things, which are still there in the background. And I think the report that came out last week, should be a wake-up call as well. So there are some big issues that unfortunately our leaders aren't prepared to deal with. I've got this picture of them sitting there with their fingers in their ears, right, just not taking any notice of what's really happening on in the real world, right? That's what I think at the moment.
My picture's a little bit different, Martin. My picture's one with one finger in one ear and the other hand holding a glass of champagne, because they're celebrating, because none of them have received a cut in their pay. If anything, over the last year and a half, there's been wage increases across the board.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that our politicians should be paid on results. Right? There's an idea.
That's a novel idea, but again, regardless of what political persuasion and whether it's I've seen it all. I've got relatives in South America that have made it to the highest ranking, being highest ranking officials in some of the governments there. The democratic and socialist, different types of governments there, and I've seen it all. And unfortunately, money corrupts, and the love of money is the root of all evil. Money isn't evil; it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And unfortunately, we got most of the politicians just love the money.
Absolutely, yeah. Money and power, put it together, and you've got a heady cocktail that goes kaboom, unfortunately, and a lot of people get caught in the crossfire. Right, have you got a tip for the day before we go?
Look, the tip for the day is if you're going to move forward, particularly more so now, we did raise this before, and that is make sure you get all your ducks in a row and make sure that they are ready to move when you see an opportunity and to pounce on it. What I'm referring to is if you don't have a conveyancer or a solicitor that you can literally call any time of the day, you're going to miss out on the opportunity. When I say any time of the day, I'm even talking about weekends. If your conveyancing solicitor or your conveyancer isn't prepared to work for you, outside of 9 to 5, you are going to be missing out on opportunities. Particularly if the agent is giving you an open door, an opportunity before everybody else either finds out about the listing or before anybody else can get their act together as well. So this is what we found for 2 properties now this last week, that our conveyancing, the people that we work with, that our clients work with, the conveyancing teams have been on the ball, Martin, where we've had them reviewing contracts at up to 7:30 at night in order to have contracts exchanged at 8 o'clock. And in one particular case, we were able to get the property $40,000 less than what the other buyer was prepared to pay for the property. And it was already in that area. Inferior property was selling on $40,000-$50,000 more than the other buyer was prepared to pay. So we were well off. We worked fast and hard, and we got the deal done, because the vendor, what they wanted was basically, they didn't care about the $40,000 difference. What they wanted was security of an exchange contract unconditionally. In other words, what we call a 66W certificate, which is a waiver of your cooling off rights. But we did all the checks and balances. So we got the building and pest report done. We got everything done within hours, and we were able to secure this property. So you've got to be prepared. Now, what we've also found that we've come across, some of our clients have come across, and also we've known of, because we beat this other buyer to the property, was that their lawyer was a 9 to 5 worker, and they didn't want to do anything past 9. But the owner wanted an assurance. We gave them on the Friday, and the answer for the other purchaser wasn't going to be giving it to them on the Monday. She signed off on the contract for our buyer, which was great. So that's the tip for this week, Martin, is make sure that your professionals that are working alongside of you are not just not working the 9 to 5. They've got to do like they do in China, Martin, like Dusty and Evan do. It's what was it, 696 or 697. 24 hours around the clock.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Well, but the idea of getting all those ducks in a row, right, and making sure that it's like the dominoes, right? You can knock the first one over, and the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one, right? You've got to get that all lined up and prepared, right? And if any one of those sticks at a particular point along the transaction process, then you get stuck. So it's really important to think that through and to make sure that you've got all the pieces there.
And as I say, Martin, the interesting thing also is the fact that once you understand, and you know very well, because we've spoken about it, on the shows and off the shows, we've spoken about the psychology behind it as well, and we've spoken about the psychology behind the selling agent, as to what their motivation is, and their motivation, often is not to maximize the sale price for their vendor. Their motivation, first and foremost, for a lot of them, is the quick commission as well, and the guaranteed sales, a sale that's not going to fall over, a sale that's going to guarantee their commitment. Because if a sale falls over in this market right now, it means that they've got to run another 3-week campaign after the cooling off and this and that, and people start getting, things start lingering around. Because why? Selling agents are now used to quick transactions between 7 and 14 days. That's they don't want to wait around 21 days. You got to be mad. You got to be kidding. 21 days? Forget it. For a commission, are you kidding me? Because on top of that is the 42-day waiting period for settlement. So that's also adds to the mix. So if you can put it all together, you're going to come out with better outcomes. But the key ingredient that we found over and over again is that conveyancer, the conveyancing or solicitor conveyancer, has to be able to take your calls, make a quick decision, assist you to make a quick decision, legal decision, at a heartbeat.
Yeah. Edwin, excellent advice as always, and thank you very much for your time tonight. And I look forward to picking up the threads this time next week, when we'll know less or more about our lockdown situation, eh?
Yeah. Look, all I'm doing now is just for now is just I'm buying building materials in bulk for my future renovations. Whilst I'm not distracted in building the veggie beds, Martin, I can research and start buying building materials in bulk for future renovations. So not only because I don't want to pay more in the future, but because who's to say what's going to be available and whether or not you're going to have to settle for inferior products from other nations that don't have the technology that that China do have.
Well, those plastic pipes could be a hedge against inflation, right?
Look, it's almost cheaper now. It's almost just as cheap to build double brick homes once again. When you start adding the cost of the bricks and the timber and putting it all together, it's almost as cheap. Getting a brickie to build double brick. Soon, Martin. Soon we're going to go from if PVC really gets that expensive, we're going to go back to copper pipes or terracotta pipes. Who knows?
I look forward to it, Edwin. Thanks very much. See you next time. Cheers.
All the best.